Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about reflections on a coordinate plane. Our objective is to identify reflections and understand those rules. All right, here we go. All right, so when we talk about reflections, we're generally going to be reflecting objects on this level over the x-axis or the y-axis. Um, Remember, when we talk about a reflection is a type of transformation that basically flips the image across a line. The line that it reflects across is what we call the reflection line. Okay, now these are the rules for reflections, and I need you guys to jot this down, jot this information down. All right, so when you're reflecting an image across the x-axis, xy becomes x negative y, and we're going to talk about that in a second. What this means is that the x coordinate is going to remain the same, but you're going to do the opposite of the y coordinate. Now, I know that the rule says negative y, but that does not necessarily mean negative y. In this context and connotation, I want you to think of the negative sign as opposite. Not negative, but opposite. So you're going to do x, but the opposite of y. So x is going to stay the same, but you're going to do the opposite of y. Now, when you're reflecting the image across the y-axis, the rule is xy becomes negative x comma y. The same thing applies for the x that apply for the y in the previous one. It's not negative x, it's the opposite of x. So for example, if it said negative 4, well, the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. We're going to look at that in just a second. The y coordinate is going to remain the same, but you will do the opposite for the x coordinate. Let me say this again. The negative sign does not mean negative. It means the opposite. So when we're talking about the x-axis, it's x, the opposite of y. When we're talking about the y-axis, reflection across the y, it is the opposite of x, and y is going to remain the same. Let's look at this. Oh, at the bottom, this is also a little important piece of information. I'll slide this down. A reflection across the x-axis. I'm sorry, reflections are the only transformation that do not preserve its orientation. Remember that. A reflection across the x-axis does not preserve its orientation. Let's keep it moving. I'm gonna skip that. So I want you to I want you to pause the video and jot this down in your notes. All right, jot this down. You should be jotting this down. All right. Hopefully you jotted that information down. All right. So here you have the pre-image. This is basically a chart. This chart will not be given to you on exams, but you can create it. Okay, so what you don't see at the top is right here. I'm gonna slide this up, and it says reflect this trapezoid ABCD across the x-axis. All right. So what's the rule for the x-axis? X remains the same, opposite for y. All right. So that's our rule, right? So this is what I was talking about. All right, so we're getting ready to do a reflection. X is going to remain the same. So our pre-image, which is the one that was there first, is here. Now we're getting ready to do our image. All right, so what is the opposite of, I'm sorry, is X going to remain the same or is it going to change here? Hopefully you said it remains the same. So when we go to our image, we're going to keep negative 5. Oh, I didn't mean to pop both of those up. It's going to be negative 5. But when you look at the y-axis here, it says we're going to do the opposite of y. And what is the opposite of 8? Negative 8. So our new image is going to be negative 5, negative 8. Here you can see x stayed the same and we did the opposite of y. Let's check the next one. So it's negative 6, 2, right? What's going to change? Is x going to change? No. So we're going to have a negative 6 here. Are we going to do the opposite of y here? Yes. So what is the opposite of 2? Negative 2. Therefore, B prime is going to be negative 6, negative 2. C. Looking at C. Is x going to remain the same? Yes, it is. We're going to do the opposite of y. What is the opposite of 5? Negative 5. Therefore, C prime is 6, negative 5. Let's go to that last one. So, is x going to change? No. Is y going to change? Yes, because it says the opposite of y here. So our new point is going to be negative 2, -4. What does this look like on the coordinate grid? So here's our image, and here you can see, here's the points. And we're going to reflect it across the x-axis. Now watch this. A. Y'all see that? There's our A prime. B. Reflected across the x, there's B prime. C. Reflected across the x-axis, there's C prime. And then finally D. There's our D prime. Oh, I need to slide this down so you guys can see the A. Boom, there we go. Okay. Now, notice the location of the coordinates is exactly what we said they would be. Here's another thing I need for you to notice. How do we know which one was their first and which one is their second? Notice that whatever is their second, the location of the image is indicated with an apostrophe. The pre-image doesn't have an apostrophe there. Let's check another one. All right, so this says reflect this triangle across the y-axis. What's the rule for y-axis? Remember, if we're reflecting across the y-axis, y is going to remain the same, and we're going to do the opposite for x. So, there's our rule. So here, looking at this, I didn't mean to show y'all that one, but it's there now. So if we're looking at t prime, we're going to do the opposite of x. Well, what is the opposite of 9? -9. Y is going to remain the same. Therefore, y is going to be 8. Going over here to j, the opposite of 9 again is going to be -9. But we're going to keep the 3. 3 is going to remain the same. So our new point is going to be -9, 3. This is actually a really simple lesson, guys. Here, the opposite of 1 is going to be -1, right? And y is going to remain the same, so that will make our new coordinate -1, 1. Okay? Now let's look at this. We're going to reflect across the y-axis. Notice the visual representation here. T. Notice that's now at -9 and 8. The y stayed the same. The j, we're still at -9, but our y-axis went up to 3. And then our y. And now you can see that visually flip across that y-axis. All right, guys. So now what I want to do is I was gonna go on to this next one, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to go into class kick, and I want to show you guys our assignment and how we want to handle that today. All right. So let's move this down just a little bit. All right. So number 3 here says reflect this shape over the x-axis and then write the rule. So I'm going to be expecting you guys to do both of them. Now you may not have a lot of space over here in this area, this section here, but I'll show you what we're going to do. So let's go down here. You see A, B, and C, and I've kind of already started it down here. But basically what I did is I took a text box and I put the text box down here and I started writing down here. So first of all, what is the rule here? We're reflecting across what? The y-axis. So let's take a text box and let's put down the rule. And our rule here is you'll always start off like this: x, y, that's S, x, y equals or becomes. All right, now we're going across the y-axis. What's going to stay the same and what's going to change? Well, we're going to do the opposite of x, and y is going to stay the same. That's the rule. So there's my rule, and if you want to, you can type down rule. If you want to, I'm not going to, but you can. All right, so what does this become? So the location of, and I don't like yellow. I don't like writing with the yellow. So here. So if I'm looking at this, what's going to change here? The x is going to change. So what is the opposite of -5? I hope you said 5. So the new location is going to be 5, comma. What is the location of Is y going to change? Is y changing? No, we're not changing y. Y is going to remain the same. 5, 5. B. X is going to change, right? So what is the opposite of -4? Well, it is +4. All we're doing is the opposite because that's what the rule says. And y is going to remain the same, which is 10. Let's go down to C prime. We're going to do the opposite of -9, and the opposite of -9 is a +9. This is a real easy lesson, guys. 9, and then y is going to remain the same as in an 8. And that's the location. Again, just a reminder, guys, negative does not mean negative. It means the opposite. Let's move to the next one. All right, so this one, it says reflect this one over the y-axis. So I'm going to start off with my rule. What's the rule? So xy is going to become, okay, y-axis, x is going to remain the same, and we're going to do the opposite of y. Remember, notice I'm now saying the opposite of y. So let's get another text box. And this is kind of a little trapezoid or some type. So we got A prime. All right, so 0 is still going to be 0 no matter what. So this is going to be 0, comma, and we're going to do the opposite of y. So that's going to make that -3 a +3. Our B prime. Is x going to remain the same? Yep, it is. So it's going to be -8, and we're going to do the opposite of y, so that -4 is going to become a +4. C prime. Forgot my C. So I'm going to turn my caps lock on. All right, so -9 is going to remain the same because we're doing the same for x. And that -7 is going to become the opposite and become a +7. Guys, this is a real easy lesson. And then our D, I'll slide this down. D prime is going to be -5 is going to remain the same. And we're going to do the opposite of -7, which is going to make this a +7. All right, so that'll be the location. Now, down here at the bottom, if you scroll down, I gave the visual. Actually, I'm going to bring this up some. I'll bring this up just a little bit. Now you can see that actual reflection take place. So this first one, you're looking at negative, right? The -5, 5, the -4, 10, which is right here. -5, 5. And then you have that -9, 8 on that first one. And here you can see where that flipped. And then the same here for that second one. So that you can visually see that. Notice they're sharing that 0 point. All right. So guys, that's what I'm looking for on this assignment. Make sure you have the rule and make sure you use the text box to have those the location of the image. All right. Catch you guys next time. Peace.